Next item on the agenda is the Iron Belle feasibility study. As you recall, there's been a design initiated by the state to do the Iron Belle Trail. The Iron Belle will run from Belle Isle to Ironwood, Michigan. A portion of that trail will utilize the existing lake, the Lake Trail in Hamburg Township, the Lakelands Trail portion. There was an initial proposal to run that trail up McGregor Road. In response to that proposal, this board directed me to apply for a grant to do a feasibility study on that trail. We did not get Grant 1 or Grant 2, but because the dollars were so limited, both of those grants were only for $30,000 each, and our request was for $30,000. Subsequent to that, I worked with Chuck Dennison, who is the manager of the Pinckney Rec area, and Chuck is responsible for the Lakelands Trail in addition to the Pinckney Rec area. And Chuck has done some hard work. We've cooperated. He's got $16,500 available as outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement that is in the packet that would be documented as a grant agreement because it's been given a grant number. I've sent the proposal around. Mark Pasco from StanTec, who designed all of the trail area in Putnam Township, has done an extensive amount of trail design, reviewed it, and submitted a cost not to exceed proposal of $22,500. Before you, I've given you some emails, a string of emails, and these emails are somewhat important. If you start at the bottom, you'll see that Chuck Dennison has indicated he thought he could get $16,500. These go back to early August. Anyway, to make a long story short, Washtenaw County Parks and Rec has agreed to contribute $2,000. On August the 16th, this Board of Trustees agreed to contribute $2,000. And we also, Chuck Dennison was able to get the agreement of Jeff Hardcastle from Hardwood Solutions Incorporated as a private business to contribute $2,000. That will put us at the, cover the cost, that provides funds up to the cost not to exceed, and since it's a cost not to exceed, we'll be able to get this study done. The reason I give you these emails is this document from the state, this Memorandum of Understanding, is strictly an agreement between Hamburg Township and the state, and it's signed by the State Director of Trails and by Chuck Dennison. I have not pursued an agreement, but I do have these emails with regard to the contribution of the other $4,000, $2,000 from once again, Jeff Hardcastle, and $2,000 from Washtenaw County Parks and Rec. So in addition to taking action on this Memorandum of Understanding from the state, I would ask the board to give me direction. I would like to get some input from Mr. Drury. I believe I can get these individuals to send us a letter, draft a little brief memo of understanding, or if you wish to, Mr. Drury. But we need to get somebody to sign on the dotted line from Washtenaw County Parks and Rec. Mr. Hardcastle will be glad to do so. I want to make it clear that Hamburg Township will be orchestrating and paying for this entire feasibility study, and then we will have to comply with the state's grant requirements to get reimbursed. It's no different. It's identical to the process that was used on the completion of the Lakeland Trail and the parking lot in Hamburg at Winklehouse Park. So the state's not going to pay for this. We're going to pay for this and get reimbursed, just like we did there, except on the extension, we had not only an agreement with the DNR, but we also had an agreement with Livingston County Road Commission, who performed the work.
Pat, did you say not to exceed 22.5?
Or 22.8, excuse me, yeah, 22.8.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought. So,
Just for the record, Pat, so we would write a check to kick this thing off, and then we'll be reimbursed how soon?
within 30 days, but hopefully, I talked with Chuck before this meeting, I've talked with Mark, the agreement provides for monthly draws and things like that, and everyone's in agreement, unless this board wants to, that this study is going to take at the most 90 days. So hopefully we can do this all in one COD process, so to speak, where we'd pay for it and then turn around and submit to the two co-contributors and the state and get our money back.
Within, hopefully, 30 days.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've talked about this before, the feasibility, it's different routes. One is McGregor, which you know how I feel about that, and there are other routes. But there's some other feasibility route?
There's 4 routes. One route,
Okay,
4 complete routes. One route is to come from the trail currently is at North Territorial at Hudson Mills.
right.
One route is to come up and around Strawberry Lake Road and into our park here, right here at Bennett Park. The other route is to go up the west side of the Huron River through the Metro Park property and across the private farm land that you see on the northeast corner of Dexter Pinckney and North Territorial along the river. Come across the new bridge that Washtenaw County Road Commission has provided for a walkway on each side of that bridge, and then that trail would come up the east side of McGregor Road. The other option is to come up, as I've described, from North Territorial on the west side of the Huron River and go west on Stinchfield Woods Road, and then take a course north on Toma, possibly through the Pinckney Rec area, and get to the Lakeland Trail somewhere in the village of Pinckney.
That's when I thought there was only 2, okay.
And the fourth one is a route partially on a utilities easement and then partially up Dexter Pinckney Road all the way into the village of Pinckney, and that route has been supplemented with a possible Safe Pathways to School proposal, because that route would go by 2 schools on the way up. So all 4 of those are there. Pasco has everything. There's been an extensive amount of work already done by Washtenaw County Parks and Rec. I've given Mr. Pasco everything that I have from them. So I don't mean to babble on. I want you to really understand what we're doing here. We're agreeing to do this. We're going to get reimbursed. We signed this agreement. I need an agreement, or I need the board's agreement as to how you want me to go forward to secure the payment of the other 2 contributors to this. So, John, is a simple letter, signed letter of understanding adequate, or do you want to draft something, or do you want me to draft something? We have several emails, as I've given you, indicating that they're willing to pay, ready, willing, and able to pay.
Well, to have all the money up front would be the way to go, obviously.
Ain't going to happen,
It's not going to happen.
guaranteed.
We know that, so we're going to get commitments from.
Yeah, it's never happened in any grant we've ever
Yeah,
got.
we just need to get a commitment from these individuals. I can go ahead and draw an agreement, but, you know, why go to the time and expense of doing all that?
I'll get a written,
Get a written letter of commitment from Washtenaw County
yes,
and from this gentleman,
yes.
this private fellow by the name of Chuck Dennison.
No, Jeff Hardcastle.
Jeff Hardcastle? Oh, there.
Chuck Dennison's the manager of the Pinckney Rec here. I'll get those letters of
Get
commitment.
those letters of commitment, because
Or-
they've all indicated they're gonna jump in line and
Yep.
back this feasibility study. Now, the feasibility study, I'm going to assume also that it will contain references to those parcels of property over which whatever proposed route they've got is going.
It's to contemplate easement acquisition,
Easement acquisition.
construction, and long-term maintenance costs.
Yeah, because the easement acquisition is gonna be a mysterious figure, because we don't know what these property owners and easement holders are gonna want in terms of money.
There has been discussion, preliminary discussion with the U of M
Right.
going down Stinchfield Woods Road.
Okay.
Because the U of M owns the entire south side of Stinchfield Woods Road from Dexter Pinckney to Toma.
Who's gonna spearhead this on behalf of this township, or on behalf of the project?
I will coordinate this on behalf of the township, but Mark Pasco is going to perform the entire study.
Well,
He's
assume for the
standing.
moment that the DEQ comes up with a recommendation.
DNR.
DNR.
Yeah.
Assume for the moment they come up with a recommendation. Who is going to follow through on that recommendation as to one of the 4 parcels that they choose? Or what if they choose 2 or 3 routes? Number 1 preferable, number 2 is obviously second choice, but it's, who's gonna do all that? And because what is relevant in all that information is, what it's gonna cost the authority, that would be the Lakelands Trail Authority, to acquire these easements
Well,
and to build it.
won't be a Lakelands Trail Authority. It'll be Hamburg Township or Putnam Township, depending on where the trail goes.
Well, these folks need to know that.
So we've already talked about this, I guess, at length, and we all have our concerns and our feelings, as I do, in terms of what it's going to cost. I'll remind you all that we have a written estimate from the Livingston County Road Commission to construct this proposed trail coming up McGregor Road in the high 2 millions, almost $3 million. So if this thing is built, it will have to be funded. Everyone is totally, oh, excuse me, I thought I turned that off. I'm embarrassed and I'm very.
Well, if this is circus court, you'd have that confiscated.
I know. I turned it off and then it came, it's a new phone, I didn't do it. The township will be responsible for the entire project in Hamburg Township if that's where it goes.
Yes.
And we've talked about this 3 or 4 times in that length.
Mhm.
We're going to have to acquire easements, we're going to have to do some right-of-way acquisition, I'm sure. The 2.9 million, if that's the way it goes, will have to be totally funded. Everyone is aware verbally multiple times and in writing that Hamburg Township is not going to pay for this trail. Now, that's a given. We don't have the money. We don't have $3 million laying around. So that's when the trail morphed. In the very beginning, if you'll recall, it was $780,000 to come up on the shoulder of McGregor in the public right-of-way. And then it was determined that there was no funding for that, and if this trail was to be funded by grant, it had to be an AASHTO standard trail. AASHTO standards demand 14 feet. That shoved us off on personal property. That shoved us into a great deal of boardwalk, over a half mile of boardwalk. You guys know the story. So let's get, for $2,000, we're going to, $2,000 from Hamburg's pocket, we're going to get this study done, and I have a high level of confidence that not only sound engineering, but reasonable common sense will prevail as we go forward with this. I do want to tell the board that I have offered that if this trail does not go up McGregor Road, that Hamburg Township, based on cost and funding options, would contemplate a bike path in the road right-of-way, perhaps 3 feet wide on the side of McGregor Road. And that could all be done in the road right-of-way.
Is that gonna require AASHTO standards?
No,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely not.
Well, all these things need to be factored in. Now is not the time and place to go through them all. But they all have to be factored in so this board knows what the expected costs and projected
If this,
finances are for this.
this is a feasibility study. This is not a contract. This is not a commitment to put the trail anyplace. It's an engineering analysis of right-of-way acquisition, construction costs, and long-term maintenance. And
How's the
I
final-
assure you that I have been told multiple times, we're not going to cram a trail, nobody's going to cram a trail down our throat if that's not where we want it.
How's
But-
the
but it-
decision going to be made?
Decision will be made collaboratively between us, Chuck Dennison, Paul Yauk, Washtenaw County Parks and Rec, the Greenways Trail. There's a multitude of people that will be involved in this. But we still have veto power, folks.
Yeah.
I want to be very blunt about that.
Okay.
And it basically, it'll have to pretty much be a unanimous decision supporting.
The governor wants this done.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gone up 127. There's unbelievable work going on the 127. I mean, this trail is a high priority of the governor, and I mean, very bluntly, I've said, if you guys want it done, we'll do it, but you're gonna have to pay for it, and we can't be on the hook for an extremely high maintenance piece of property. A half a mile of boardwalk is gonna cost a fortune to maintain.
Well, this board will never
We're not gonna
support
approve
that.
No.
But the bike trail, the cost of that and that'll be all rolled into the feasibility study?
No. The bike trail, that bike trail that I mentioned is an afterthought, not necessarily an afterthought, but is a subsequent decision based on the decision of this feasibility study.
And we're not obliged to. You just said that we'll think about
Yeah.
doing something like that.
I would, and I
No
think that it's,
contingency, no relationship.
I think it's wonderfully good planning to do what we can to get a bike trail up McGregor Road.
If we decide we want to do it.
You have to remember the border-to-border trail, which runs now from Point Muley or wherever it is, down on the, comes up across Wayne County, and it goes across Washtenaw County. It's almost complete, it's not totally done, and it ends at North Territorial Road. And that's a tremendous asset, and that's going to provide a good deal of activity in Hamburg, and I think long-term, we should seek grant funding, not our tax dollars, but we should seek grant funding to figure out how we can get a bike trail on the side of McGregor Road. That would be a great interconnect. It would be great for public safety. It would be a real asset to the community.
But back to Al's question on the decision-making process, date, whatever, when we get to that point, would Mike do the cost for the bike trail for us? Or how would we get
Mike's
our,
already done that.
he's done that?
We've got different ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got
So-
some preliminary numbers.
So that info would be part of
Part of the
the
whole thing.
decision making, okay.
We are, I've made it very, very clear, the feelings of this board.
Okay.
Very, very clear.
May I ask one question about Mr. Dennison's
Mhm.
email? When he says the DNR would fund the remaining through the Iron Bell grant funds, who decides how those funds are going to be used? Is that within his purview, or?
He is, this agreement, we are the grantee, and he is granting us $16,000 in this agreement that we have before us here today to sign. He
So
is-
that's his prerogative to do that?
He is granting that money to us, and this document has also been signed by Paul Yauk, and Paul Yauk, if you know, is the state director of trails.
Okay, thank you.
So Chuck Dennison from Pinckney Rec and Paul Yauk have signed this. This is no different than, and once again, this is a mirror of the grant that we got, the trust fund grant that we got when we did the Lakeland Trail improvement that Debbie did all the work on. I want you guys to all understand where we're going with this.
No, I understand. If it's a grant and we get reimbursed, we're silly not to move forward on this.
I'll put a lot of work, I mean,
No, I know you put a lot of
after the two Iron Bell grants fell apart, it was
Right,
Plan
right,
D,
okay.
try to come up with something. And once again, one of the main objectives of this is the three parameters: the property acquisition, the construction cost, the long-term maintenance. Once we have those, then this can go public, then. We can go to the public with a presentation on this.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion that we proceed,
Direct whole,
pending, to direct you to proceed working with the cast of characters here, pending your receiving formal commitments
Okay.
for the two $4,000
$2,000.
or $2,000 items.
Okay, and I'm going to direct Al, Jim, and I to sign the grant agreement.
Yes.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, supported by Negri. So we're all set on that. Ask me, anytime, let me know. Questions are great. I just want everybody to be full disclosure here. Everybody feel comfortable?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Let's do a roll call on that, okay?
Okay, roll call vote?
All right, Supervisor Holt?
Yes.
Trustee Menzies?
Yes.
Trustee Negri?
Yes.
Clerk Nielsen is absent. Trustee Carlson? Treasurer Carlson? excuse
Yes.
me. Trustee Dolan is absent. Trustee Hahn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I will keep you posted. If I don't keep you posted and you want some information, let me know. I don't want to drop the ball on this. Next, we have the tax levy resolution revised.